welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. And welcome to the Cities on the Frontline speaker series session on humans and habitats, harmonizing nature, places, and spaces for community. I'm Leon Kapetas from Resilient Cities Network, lead for climate resilience, and I will be your co-host for today, along with Tina Marano from GHD Canada. Before we begin, please let me give you a quick introduction to the series and the ground rules for today. Cities on the Frontline is a virtual thought leadership speaker series featuring solutions by cities for cities. It began in 2020 through a partnership between the Resilient Cities Network and the City Resilience Program of the World Bank Group. The series provides city practitioners with a platform for knowledge exchange. The 13th session of the Cities on the Frontline Speaker Series 2023 is hosted with the support of GHD, and the session is held in collaboration with the World Bank. Unfortunately, this is our last session for this year, and we are thankful to all our partners, our cities, and all our audience who were part of the series and made it such a success. The purpose of these global seminars is to have an open and honest learning conversation. So please note that the calls are not on the record. So we ask you to not attribute any comments unless you have the person's permission to do so. In that case, we can help you to obtain this permission if needed. We have around 230 registered participants for the call today. So to facilitate the discussion, we will ask you to write your questions on the Q&A function of Zoom. The recording of the session, as well as the PowerPoint presentations, will be posted by next week on our website. Now, going back to our theme for today, it's worth pointing out that nature inclusion is vital for building urban resilience in our member cities, but also all cities globally who want to address multiple challenges in a holistic manner. By integrating natural and grey infrastructures, cities can prepare themselves better against climate-induced hazards, but also support biodiversity conservation and improve the physical and mental well-being of their citizens. It is critical that nature-based solutions contribute to equity by addressing social vulnerabilities where this is most needed. Now, I would like to kindly invite Tina Marano, my co-host and future communities lead from GHD Canada, to begin by explaining in more detail the session today and introduce our panelists. Tina, over to you.
Thank you, Leon. I'm excited to be here today moderating the session on this really important topic of nature-based solutions. I am Tina Marano. I'm sitting in Toronto, Canada, and I'm GHD's Future Communities Leader for Canada. We're very proud to be in partnership with the Resilient Cities Network and to be working with like-minded organizations and professionals like our panelists today, and you, my co-host Leon, who are driving change around urban and community resilience. As you mentioned, I work for GHD, a global engineering and consulting firm. In my role as Future Communities Leader, I work with leadership and project delivery teams to develop solutions that take a holistic approach to addressing the environmental, social, cultural, and economic ambitions of our clients. At GHD, we believe that communities can respond to these fast-changing times in our world and contribute to both individual and collective solutions when we're all connected, productive, inspired, and resilient. And what we're seeing in our project work and hearing from our clients is that communities are dealing with so many complex challenges, but out of challenges come opportunities, and municipal decision makers are committed to seeing through these opportunities to create sustainable, safe, livable, and resilient cities for all. And we see and hear so many great examples of how communities are adapting to change despite the challenges they face and making a difference and inspiring collaboration in their efforts, something we'll talk about later on today. Today's Cities on the Frontline series focuses on humans and habitat and harmonizing nature, places, and spaces for community. We're going to unpack how nature-based solutions promote sustainable and resilient cities in the face of climate change. And the United Nations estimates that nature-based solutions can provide 37% of the mitigation needed to achieve global 2030 Paris Climate Agreement targets with significant benefit to all. So it's definitely a topic that is interesting, increasing in prominence, and it is a tool that brings many health and social benefits. Today, we're going to hear how two very different cities are incorporating nature-based solutions into urban planning and design. And I have the pleasure of introducing our panelists, Shilesh Hariharan and Sander Klaasen. Shilesh is an architect and urban planner. He teaches at the Mayasi Academy of Architecture in the heart of Chennai city in eastern India, and is also a practicing architect at his own firm, Madras Terrace Architects. He has a master's from the TU Delft University in the Netherlands, where his area of study was on disaster and its implications on urbanization, focusing on economically developing countries around the world. For over a decade, Shilesh has worked in India with government, private sector, and NGOs on several projects. Shilesh is leading a key project in the city of Chennai called City of 1,000 Tanks. Sander is a senior landscape architect with the city of Rotterdam, heading up a team of about 70 landscape architects who work on a wide variety of projects, designs, and policies throughout the city and its surrounding areas. Sander and his team also work with internationally renowned landscape architects on complex projects. He's spent several years working on defining the vision for a connected city for the city of Rotterdam and has been instrumental in the development of the Rotterdam-style manual for the design and maintenance of the city's public spaces and a city-scale green infrastructure program. Welcome, Sander and Shilesh. Now back to you, Leon, to take us into the first part of today's panel.
Great. Thank you, Tina, and welcome, Shilesh and Sander. Let's delve directly into the point of this webinar series. I'd like to ask both panelists a couple of questions, and through your presentation, it'll be great to hear how your city is dealing with these issues. I'll start with my first question. So we're all familiar with the escalating challenges of climate change, such as rising sea levels, more frequent and intense heat waves, and floods. So in this context, what challenges are you already facing or anticipate? And how can cities, your city in particular, proactively incorporate natural infrastructure to mitigate these threats? So that's one bit. Would like to hear more about it. Second bit is recognizing that 60% of urban areas projected for 2050 are yet to be developed. What recommendations would you offer to ensure that new developments are in harmony with nature and resilient to climate change? So on the one hand, we have these new developments, but at the same time, how can we retrofit our existing urban environment that was not originally planned to handle such pressures? So it'd be great to hear from you on these topics. Perhaps we can start with you, Shilesh, and feel free to share your presentation.
Yeah, I will share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. So to start with, my name is Shilesh. I'm a part of a larger collective represented here, which is the City of 1,000 Tanks. So where did it all start? We started as a part of the Water as Leverage project, which was initiated by the Dutch government. The enterprise agency Henco looked at water as a fundamental measure to identify how synergies can be brought about in the landscape. So through their research, they identified 3 key locations in Southeast Asia where they wanted to where urban fabric has developed in a constant relation with water and how it can be brought to the forefront and used as a tool for urban transformation. So Chennai came into the picture and we bid for it in 2018. Our office here in Chennai and Ooze Architects in Rotterdam. So we came together as a collective to win this project. So from 2018, we have been working on this. So straight into the context. This is Chennai. This is just apart by 3 years. So in 2015, there is a 100-year event. And 2005, there's a 100-year event. The city gets completely submerged. And in 2018, we came so close to the D-Day. That is, we are running out of completely dry. And there was such a requirement for water for the city. So in a patch of 3 years, we found ourselves oscillating between extremities. And we, as a collective at that point of time, wanted to understand what is actually happening in the background, that the city actually goes through the system. And there's a lot that is there in the background. I'm trying to synthesize it simple for us to digest it here. And Leon, I will answer all the questions as a collective, so I'm not going to compartmentalize it. I will go as a... So if you look at the city on the left-hand side, this is how the Chennai or most of the urban environments work. We consider cities are generally linear in their process. They use the resources, and the resources are spent and they become wastewater, which are to a greater extent treated, to some extent are not treated and fed into the natural landscapes or back into the sea. So cities are becoming transition zones where resources are being processed and waste consistently being generated. Now, this is not going to fit inside any ecological process because ecology or any natural process is cyclic in nature. So that's where we want to shift the background for Chennai. So we want to look at nature-based solutions, decentralized local systems that can cause decentralized recirculation of water for human consumption, at the same time breaking this loop of a linear movement of resources going through the city, even specific with water. And this is what we reimagined. And in our research, we found out that the city has enough amount of rainfall falling through a year. And there is no real reason for scarcity to happen. But just because the city has been built impervious and through this natural linear process, you're actually losing all the resources and shifting between these two extremes. Now, nature-based nature-based solutions are something that work in tandem with nature, but it is very difficult for us to communicate this to any administration, municipal administration, or any government entity. So we needed to put up a demonstrative project with all these components and create a condition where they understand how they form an integral part of the existing setup, but at the same time are enough to be scaled up to solve a city's problem. So this is a school for a differently abled, that is hearing impaired and visually impaired children in the heart of city. And we came to the school because the school also suffered in the same condition as the city did. You look at a picture on the left, this is during the summer because it's a 100-year-old institution. By slow upgradation, the city levels around the school has risen up. So there is backflow of sewage that happens into the campus during the summer. And this is a photograph on the 21st of November, 2001, when the campus was completely flooded. So the government had to send boats to rescue the children. So this kind of replicated the condition that the city also goes through. So we took this as a challenge and see how we can find an opportunity to kind of resolve this at a local level of the institution itself. And this was the setup that we actually built. So this is the sewage treatment system that we have put up in the school. So we have 27,000 liters of wastewater the school produces through its 300 residents who are in campus. And we wanted to use only nature-based systems and integrate them as a part of the landscape to come to see how we can have passive nature-related installations treat a common problem of sewage, which is being produced on a day-to-day basis. So if you look at this, there are 4 components. One is the settler. Am I pointer visible here? Yeah. So this is the settler, is nothing but a kind of a tank, like a septic tank, where you have the larger solids being settled. This is geographically located at a different location because we wanted to collect the sewage in the school through gravity, which gets pumped to an anaerobic reactor, which is a compartmentalized unit, which has various microbes and activated biosludge. When the water passes through, the organic solids are broken down into nutrients. Then it goes through to constructed wetlands when oxidation happens and the final tertiary treatment happens, and we get the clean water. So this is the installation as a whole. So the various components that I have explained. When the water gets treated, when it comes to this blue tank, what we decided, because it's a school for the children who are visually blind and hearing impaired, we wanted to put the water for the creation of a garden in the landscape, which was barren, predominantly barren within the school. So we sent the water through soil, through irrigation manifolds. We put it into the soil and we planted it. What was like this actually became this. So now the best part about this is, if you look at it, these are the accommodation units for the sisters that you see on the left side. This is the prayer ground for the deaf school, and this is actually the deaf school which is on the background. Now, historically, when you look at any grey infrastructure, they are incompatible with spaces which are actively being used by human beings. They are generally isolated from their environment. They are kept as a infrastructure, as a single-use entity, which is being run to maintain water. But the beauty of the nature-based solution that we did, we integrated where people live. This is the setup that actually treats 27,000 liters of water every single day. And it is a subsurface flow constructed wetland, so you don't have any kind of smell. There is no vector-borne like mosquitoes or don't breed on the surface, because you literally don't see water as a part of the landscape, but just the plants that grow out of it. And we have drip irrigated the water that we have treated and into the soil across the landscape. And this is how lush it looks throughout the year, irrespective of the temperature. And the best part is, this has become a very active zone for children to traverse. It has become an extremely cool zone in the middle of the entire landscape. And we have disconnected the school from the municipal system. So 27, whatever the school was facing as an issue, sending its sewage out, now we are treating it and making it an asset, putting it into the aquifer, which again feeds the larger purpose of the city. And this is what we have achieved. So if you look at it, this is the sewage, raw sewage that comes into the settler. And the last image is the sewage, the water, the tertiary treated water we actually get out of the constructed wetland. And there is no moving just because of the geography of the site, because we are collecting at a lower point. We had some pumps to put the water, but then we have installed solar panels so that that energy is also being taken care, and there is no actual investment in terms of energy or maintenance. The only thing that we do is cull the plants every 3 months or 4, because they're beautifully growing. The nutrients are so rich that they are thriving in this environment. Now, our vision is now coming to the scaling up part. What is the beauty about nature-based systems is they can locally be integrated into all these spaces that are available within the city. And the best part is, even if you look at this design, it is not something that is very type oriented. We can design the wetlands to be curvilinear. We can design the wetlands to be circular. We can design the wetlands to fit the context of the condition that we are going to achieve. We are trying to design, and they can be seamlessly blend into the landscape. And the idea is we are trying to scale it up at a larger scale into many institutions. So one by one, we will start cutting our sewage that is actually going into the municipal treatment system. So the densification of the urban area, the municipal system actually suffers to manage the amount of water that, because municipal sewers, at least in Chennai's context, have been laid in the 60s and the 70s. Many inner city areas are laid during the British occupation of India. To upgrade these things in inner core areas are a very big challenge, and it causes a huge disruption of the city. So nature-based solutions have come to a fundamental beauty that they can be integrated in various contexts. They can reduce the load, and over a period of time, pursuing this across various mediums, we will be able to achieve self-sustenance, and we will be able to address climate risk and resilience built into the urban fabric. So we looked at various components that are there within the city. So you look at it, we looked at a temple tank, we looked at a canal, we looked at a commercial hub, we looked at a residential area, and we created prototype projects for this. So the idea is we are taking one component, but then when it's multiplied across the city, it has a huge impact on the landscape. So I'll explain just one. This is the temple tank of Mylapore. So this is, historically, the temple tank is an inverted pyramid. So the bottom layer of the tank is actually at the depth of the aquifer. So scientifically, when rain comes in, the pressure at the bottom of the tank is enormous. So it pushes the water into the aquifer very effectively. So it is a holy structure because it is the source of water for the residential neighborhood that is in the surrounding. And it has a beautiful capacity of significant amount to be recharged into the aquifer. If you look at it, this is the status as they are. They don't have a significant feed coming into it. They are, most of the years, they are plain because the urban fabric is not conducive to water being brought into these landscapes. So what we are envisioning is a transformation of this landscape. This is what we are pitching as we have pitched as a project to the state government. And now it is being reviewed by the national government for funding from GCF. So the Green Climate Fund participants who came for a lot of workshops, they were impressed with this setup that we are looking at. Even in an inner city area where it has been hundreds of years of densification, there are still a lot of green pockets. When we did our reconnaissance survey, we found out there are massive amounts of pockets which are predominantly derelict. Re-envisioning those environments and creating a landscape around the temple tank and bringing back a very balanced environment using nature-based system will build a lot of resilience. One will also make Chennai self-sufficient in its water management and stop this crisis of fluctuating between too much of water and too little water and suffering with droughts as well. And through this process, we understood we are also addressing an enormous amount of SDGs, because water that's the fundamental argument of water as leverage as well. Water as an entity has the capacity to address a lot of SDGs. And if we address water at the urban level, we have phenomenal amount of impact on various dimensions, not just the physical form of the city, from equity, from entrepreneurship to women empowerment. A lot of parameters could be brought into water and tied along with water. And this could be a very key component to transform the cities. And this is what we said. So 1 Mylapore tank, there are about 50 more tanks in the city. And if we can replicate this model, we have an enormous amount of capacity that we are building across the landscape of the city. And that's what the vision is. The 1,000 tanks itself is, it's just water retention structures which predominantly slow the flow of water, treat gray water and black water, make them assets for the urban landscape, recharge them within the site, and also build resilience in a very decentralized, very context-specific, very intuitively designed landscapes for the city. And yeah, this is what we've been working for the past, now 5-6 years in Chennai. And that's the pilot. And these are all the projects that are in pipeline, which we are working with various government institutions. I hope I answered the 2 questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this is really fascinating. And I'm actually have so many more questions, and I want to read more about the work you're doing. I would even want to visit and see it with my own eyes, not on a slide. What I'd like to keep from this is that it's not green, blue, green, or gray. You bring these 2 elements together.
Yes.
You bring them in the city. You don't leave the infrastructure sitting somewhere outside where nobody can see it. And
Yes.
It's about multifunctionality. This is what you have succeeded there. It's really impressive and inspiring.
In Chennai's just I'll add this one small point. In Chennai's context, we have rains only happening in the month of November and December, currently right now. And for the remaining 8 months, we predominantly have a dry spell. So wastewater becomes an asset to keep the blue-green infrastructure alive through the landscape. Otherwise, they kind of become derelict and they become unused spaces. So using gray water or black water as a treatment system through the year keeps all the landscapes alive, keep all these components active through the period of the year, and they still serve during the rains as well. So yeah, so I'll stop.
Great. Yeah. So circularity plays a huge role in the conceptualization of your nature-based solutions. You
Yes.
no longer have these linear systems, water in, water out. Now I'd like to move to Sander's presentation. I'd like to repeat the questions for those who joined not long ago. 2 questions, 2 broad umbrella questions. The first one refers to what hazards do you deal with in Rotterdam today, or what hazards do you anticipate in the future, which might not have manifested yet? That's the first question. And the second question refers to strategic master planning for nature and infrastructure. So you have new developments, not just you in Rotterdam, but also cities worldwide with population growing. And how can these new developments incorporate principles of nature-centered design? Or we should also think of retrofit environments that have not been designed to deal with such climatic pressures. So how do we retrofit these environments? Sander, it would be great to hear from you and your experience from Rotterdam.
Yes, well, thank you for inviting me. I was told to make it very brief, so I might not be as specific as the beautiful presentation of Shilesh, because I was told to do it in 5 slides. Well, I doubled it a bit, so I'll try to be brief, but otherwise we have a discussion later if people have questions, of course. I try to share, but if it doesn't work, you have also just... I'm not very good at this, so do you see this? Do you see my...
yes, if it's possible to make it full screen, there should be...
yeah,
this? Now yes,
Okay. Well, just a little... I'm very impressed by the previous presentation and see how different it is, but also how we have similar problems, maybe on a different scale. Rotterdam is a delta city, and we used to have a history of controlling the delta, and we were very successful with it. But if you talk about hazards that are coming upon us, it's all about the sea level that's rising, because we live below sea level for a great deal. It's also the water coming from the mountains. It's the water coming from underneath and from above, to be honest. So it's coming from 4 ways. We have a problem, but for now we have a pretty good sewer system. Everything is organized well, but we know we will have a problem in the future. But also it's very interesting when you're talking about deltas and how you want to be resilient. You have to be in touch with the water again and the landscape. And we kind of lost contact, you could say, and now we're trying to, make contact again, not only because of safety and those reasons, but also to make it a more livable city and a more durable city in the future. Well, I put a lot of information in 1 slide, but I'll try to make it a little bit clear. It's called a program framework. It's called Weatherwise. In the Dutch, it's called Weerwoord. I think it's a funny translation, but I hope it, it tells you a little bit what it's what we do. It's all about it's all about adaptation as a chance for good growth. And also adaptation for flood resilience. We state a few climate adaptation challenges we have in Rotterdam. It's about flooding, as I stated. It's all about rainfall. We have a lot of heavy rains we are not used to. We also have heat problems, which is quite new for us, by the way. We have a groundwater problem because the ground we are there's land subsidence, and so the groundwater is coming up, so we have a lot of problems. And we have a lot of drought, which has a lot of effect on our green structure, as we see when we have heavy storms or, you see that the whole green structure is weakening. But we also see a lot of implementation opportunities because we're a growing city. But one thing we stated as a city is that we will not expand as a city, but we will densify. So we will, it means we stay out of the landscape surrounding us, but we will do it within the city. I think that's very important, but it's also making it very complex, but it also makes it, it gives a lot of opportunities and challenges for climate adaptation. And we also want to empower, you could say, the Rotterdammers, so the Rotterdam people, to be a part of this whole adaptation strategy. So we have a lot of local initiatives that we try to subsidize, try to stimulate, or try to connect with, so people are a part of it. And we also have an agenda for the coming, these periods are due to our policy, I don't know, how do you call them? Well, our aldermen are there for like 4 years. So you have a period of 4 years and they want to have an agenda. And I'll talk about later a little bit about the Weatherwise priorities. And it also has a toolkit of measures with lots of examples how you can adapt to the climate change. Well, we use a lot of data. We have a lot of data to try to prioritize, but also to get to analyze where the problems are have the most urgency, where it affects the most people. And that is not only about data like water safety, but it's also about how close do people live to cool places, how close do people live to green places. So we also have a lot of social society, I don't know translation, but the social data, because we also believe it's also nature-based solutions are also about people. And we try to connect to have happy, healthy people within the city. And the climate will have a great effect on it if we don't deal with it. So we prioritize our projects because this Weatherwise has also a program and a fund to subsidize projects. But we prioritize by substantial contribution to climate adaptation, this factual urgency for climate. And that I mean by that it's based on data, not only about the feeling. It's connectable to urban assignments, other urban assignments and changes of implementation. And it's also connecting with policies and funds of other partners. I will come back to that later, because we do a lot of co-financing, because we have a lot of programs, and you see all these programs about health, about green, about climate, they overlap. And we all used to live next to each other, but we try to combine these funds and to have a more effective system and a more, how do you say it, a mentality of executing projects than talk to each other. So we have a green agenda and we go green. That's the other policy you could say, but this is every city has a green agenda maybe, but the special thing about it is that we combined the program of Weatherwise. We have a biodiversity program, which I will not go into because it was too much. And we have a green program, and we started to connect these budgets, but also these programs to have more power to realize these projects, because we have a lot of overlap. It was not very common to do it like that, to be honest. I worked for 20 years, and usually it was all the social programs and the green programs were apart from each other, and actually we were competing, unintendedly, of course. But this green agenda has 6 ambitions which deal on a different scale. So the first 2 ones are more close to the people. We try to stimulate people with their greening and other solutions. But we also pointing out squares where we could also use more water-based solutions, and to make more green areas where it affects a lot of people. We really want to have green routes along the water. These routes connect the city with the surrounding landscape, but also connects the city to the river. And these routes along the water are also very good for local climate. If it's hot, there's usually more wind, and people, how do you say that? There's more space. So it's these areas used to add to your local environment and your mental health. That's what I tried to find. So, and we really focus on upgrading our parks to make them more biodiverse, but also to make, they're heavily used, and we also have to invest in them to keep them biodiverse and to keep the parks healthy themselves. And we add 20 hectares of green. That's really political. So it's like they can, we can, how do you say that? Well, I'm sorry, I just don't know the word. Well, it was very important for politics to see after 4 years, we made 20 hectares. We have 57 million euros in 4 years. So in all these goals and programs. So that's quite some budget to really make some steps. But we also prioritize these green agenda projects, not only by the people who are the loudest to be, but more on lots of data within these neighborhoods. This is the city of Rotterdam, and the more dark red it is, the worse it gets, because green is the positive color here. It's all data about the square amounts of water, walking distance. Well, you can see them here. And all these things combined will give you an idea about which neighborhoods need the most investments in climate adaptation, and also which affects the most people. So we really try to have a, well, more like a scientific basis to live on instead of a political one only, because, well, and then there was a question of if we have some tidal parks, some projects where I can show you what we do. I just look at the questions you told. I hope. Well, oh, there we go. The natural-based retrofitting. Well, the funny thing is, like everybody knows maybe that the Netherlands is man-made from the start. So it's really interesting how natural-based solutions take part. It's also, we have to, well, how do you say that? The historical man-made solution have to be improved with the new knowledge we have, because we have an old canal system which was started in the 1870s as a public sewer system, to be honest, but also with a beautiful landscaping and beautiful housing. Of course, we don't have public sewer systems in anymore. So now these are the lush, exclusive green areas. But we try to layer our projects with more. So it's not only a green project, but it should also do something for the ecology, or solutions in mobility or anything else. I think these will result in the most strong natural structures in the city. But and one example I wanted to show you is we have a tidal park, the Van Brienoord Island. It's executed. I think that's the right word. I think it's so it's there. And it's it's an island within the river Maas, which has there been for a long time, and it was kind of neglected. It had some allotment gardens, and well, it's just abandoned a little. And we really thought, well, we have to give it back its natural capacity, or to add more biodiversity to the city, but also to have the tidal system connect to this island again, because it's very interesting for nature, but it's also very interesting for people, because because we lost contact to the water. People don't notice our tidal system of 1.5 meters every 2-3 times a day. But we also connected this island within the neighborhoods around it because we created like a circuit, we call it, for exercising, for walking and cycling within the neighborhoods over the dikes, because this is the outer dike system. So it's really adding a very new or natural environment for the people who live there. But it was an existing island. Well, this is more, I think this is a very interesting project because this is in the middle of the city. It's called Rijnhaven Park. It's a new, partly floating and the tidal park and an urban development by reclaiming land in an old harbor. If you're talking about natural-based solution, this used to be a landscape way back. Then we dug the harbor. Then the harbor became urban area. And now we want to densify the city again, so we're regaining land again. But the funny thing is here that we, within this urban development, we also are making contact with the water again. Because of the park, people can hopefully swim in the future here. At the moment, the quality is not good enough. But I think this is a very, how do you say, if you want to regain the contact with your landscape again, you don't have to walk away from it or try to manage it, but also try to live with it. And that's very exciting, because on the other hand, you could say, well, the tide or the sea level is rising, so let's move out, let's go away. But I think if you give more space to the water and really have a new connection to the landscape, then we really can have a pretty prosperous future. Within this area. Well, I don't have time to explain it all, but we're also had great research on how to deal with the delta in the future and the surroundings of Rotterdam. I'll be ready soon. This is the medium scale project. It's called Rain Garden. On the left, you see the previous situation. It was a parking space. Well, you don't see any cars, so it was out of use. It was heavily treated by platanus trees, but people said, well, we want a rain garden here. And my first reaction was it's not possible because of the trees. But you see also the black Zoho construction here, and that's collecting the water from the elevated railway you can see on the left, which is out of order. So that's a very long building, and they collect the water, put it in this system, and also this water will water the rain garden. And it's really successful. I could have chosen some pictures with people in it, and there's also a local community who is maintaining this piece. So, and these are really example projects for us, also to try to see if we can scale up these kind of thinking for the whole of the city. So we have a lot of experiments in the city, also about water squares, really showcases, which have a lot of intention, but which are also for a reason to showcase, and not the whole city is a showcase. So you really want to normalize these things and to make it more affordable. And on the other hand, we have something really Dutch. I don't know if you know about it. It's called the National Competition of Tile Popping. All our sidewalks are in square tiles, and we stimulate all people to have, well, we call it facade gardens, to take one row of tiles, greening. We help people to do it, and we won the competition this year from Amsterdam. So it's kind of a competition in the Netherlands. But it's not a joke why I want to show this, but this is an ongoing process, which is pretty popular, but it's very important. It's a very low key way of people to engage with greening the city. And I think it's very positive, and it works quite well.
And that segues nicely into our next section about engaging people in collaboration. So Leon, if you're okay, I think I'm going to jump into one question before we open it up to the Q&A.
Yeah, sure. I just want to make one comment that it's great to see how there is strategic thinking behind the nature-based solutions that you're designing. From this large scale you showed us with the maps and the scoring of every neighborhood, to what you showed in the end, which is really local scale outside someone's home. Tina, over to you for the next question zone.
Sure. And I see that there's some great questions in the Q&A, so I really want to just make some quick points before we move into the questions from the Q&A. So I think what we're hearing, fantastic projects, really exciting. And we're hearing that collaboration obviously is critical, right? Engaging with departments within your own organizations, getting political support, funding, ensuring local businesses, not-for-profits. We talked about the school communities, local communities as well. And of course, the community residents understand the benefits. So I'm just going to ask one question. If we can just have a really succinct answer so that we can get to the participants' Q&A. But what challenges have you found? Like, which of those stakeholder groups have been the most difficult to engage, and why? Is it around understanding? Is it around people don't understand the benefits, don't understand what the benefits will be back to the community? Is it around the funding? So a little bit about who you're engaging with, and why was that so difficult, if it was difficult? And let's start with Shilesh.
And let's keep it to 3 minutes per panelist. Thank you.
Great advice.
The challenge of reaching out to communities, and the challenge, there are two sides to the spectrum. One is the residents, the urban neighborhoods, and the other one is the government. In a city like Chennai, which is now 1,100 square kilometers, and now in the brink of expanding to 5,590 square kilometers, the number of people to engage is phenomenally large. And it is also a polarized condition where few people look at the larger picture, few people have very specific objectives that they want to achieve in the public space. And the government also finds it very difficult to find a middle ground or interact or take value from these people. And that's been the biggest challenge. So even for the nature-based systems, we have been speaking a lot about it, but for the government to even take it up, they needed a demonstration of it because they simply can't go without knowing how it works. Now to engage with the communities, then they need to be brought into, for instance, for the school, we took them to Auroville, we took them to so many places where nature-based systems are for them to be convinced about it. So it's a time-consuming process. And when you replicate it across a larger scale, for instance, at Mylapore, which is a religious structure. So there are other apprehensions that come into the play because you have various beliefs, are you going to encroach into the space? So these are questions which are very difficult to answer unless and until you kind of have the solution in hand. But for you to have the solution in hand, you need to work with the condition. So going from here to a convincing argument has a lot of people to come on board and their applications should be addressed. We don't have the full design put in place. And this is a very difficult challenge when it comes to nature-based systems, which is not a problem in gray systems because you're putting it away from the city. You're putting it elsewhere. Nobody bothers about it and you know it treats. But when nature-based system interacts on the spot where it is, to create this argument and take people along, this is difficult.
And I think when you're able to show the finished project, right, executable, I think Sandra said, you know, it was executed, right? I think that's the best way to actually demonstrate, have people walk through there and see the benefits and hear it, right? Hear it from the community, the residents that are benefiting. Sander, to you, I mean, you ended on the slide about the tiles competition, right? You're trying to engage the community, but these are complex projects. So, you know, what is your experience in engaging all of the stakeholders, and what were the challenges?
At first, there are a lot of different groups of people in Rotterdam. We have a group of people who will come up for this themselves. They organize. It's more like as we call the more scientific, educated people. And we have a lot of people who are working and surviving. And these people usually could use a lot of support in having a healthy future and lifestyle. So it's really a challenge to connect to them and to, so there's not one Rotterdammer, as we say, and we also have very different areas in the city. On the other hand, if you look at the complex things, we used to be a car-dominated city. We still little are, and there's really going to be a transition to more less cars, more cyclists, and more people on foot and by public transport. But that takes a lot of energy because people don't believe it still, and it takes a little friction to get the area, to get the room for other things like green water and places for people to meet. So what we really, that were some challenges. And the other thing is what I told, we have all our different programs with our different, how do you say, the goals and the different funds, but trying to work together is something we're learning, because you could say that, I think that's clear. And so the collaboration within the system, but also on the different skills from the national governments, the province and the city, but also from the water administration, the sewer administration, the road maintenance, everybody. So work together because we have the same goal, and that's a healthy city.
Thank you. Leon, we've got some questions. They keep coming, the questions in the chat. I think we should move to see how many of those questions we can address.
Yes, definitely. Let's take them one by one. Let's have one answer, one of our experts today answering. You can choose who wants to answer. And I hope we can answer as many as possible of these questions. So the first question is from Helen. Are these systems managed by the city, or is the maintenance and operation and the responsibility of the property owner operator? Probably this, Shilesh, maybe?
Yeah, so for the installation of the school, we are supporting them in a transition phase right now. So we are a part of the O&M, but in a period of time, they will be managing it. But in principle, what is to manage is the question. So the couple of points that have to be managed is the plants grow because of the nutrients. You need to cut them because when they have gone bigger, you just don't pull them out of the roots, just cut them is first. And the other point is every 2 to 3 years, we need to desludge the septic tank. That's the settler. And every 4 to 5 years, we need to desludge the anaerobic reactor. These are points where we as technical consultants could come in and help the school. But as far as running maintenance goes or managing the infrastructure, it just runs on gravity. So there's not much of a complexity in it. And yeah, so.
There is some adoption of certain elements, and then it's working. Again, that's a question. The next question is specifically again for Chennai. How do you incorporate the Chennai example where there is greater density? So where you don't have green spaces, but you have cement roads and buildings. That's again for Chennai.
Yes, that's the very reason that we took Mylapore, because Mylapore is it's at the city center. It's before the British times, and it is the cultural heart of the city. But in our mapping, we still found a lot of green derelict space built into the urban fabric. Yes, spaces are very tight. Yes, we would need to relook at how we engineer the green systems in. But for one instance, there's a canal called Buckingham Canal, where there's a large tract of land on both sides below the railway lines and other spaces. And there are also communal spaces that are inbuilt into the urban fabric. There are there's a large playground, there are school grounds. So when we look at rain capture, these environments could work. When we're looking at grey water treatment, we would have to find these appropriate environments and get it done. It is possible, but yes, it is a challenge. It is a challenge. And one thing that I would like to say is we are working in cities that are more than 300, 400 years old. And we are working at the heart of it. And we are trying to solve problems which have been layered for generations before. So I don't think I will be the only person who will be able to solve it. We are putting our foot forward in a direction which progressively will lead to people who will be able to find better solutions, better augmentations in the urban landscape. And that is the hope. And yes, it is possible, but it takes a lot of commitment and participation at our end.
You try to make the best from the space you have there. I think the next question is for Sander, considering the time that arrived. How do your efforts to include more biodiversity in human-built spaces focus on endemic biodiversity? If yes, why or why not? If not,
Could you repeat it again? Sorry, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, it's about how you include more biodiversity in human-built spaces and how you can focus more on, if you focus on endemic biodiversity.
Endemic, you mean more local endemies?
Yeah.
Endemic. We try to use to be more endemic. We have a lot of diseases at the moment with exotic trees, by example. So we really try to be more endemic, but also within the plants, because we know that using endemic plants adds a lot to biodiversity for all the animals and the insects. The hard thing is that it's getting hotter, it's getting drier, it's getting wetter. So the whole variety of plants will have to shift also, because we cannot assure that it will be a stable condition. But our biodiversity program really tries to share knowledge about how the ecological system of Rotterdam works and what you could do within the urban areas, but also in the buildings to strengthen the biodiversity. And also the maintenance of the city. We have a lot of lawns, which we mow 26 times a year because, well, we also do that. And we really would like to change it because we can really make steps there to make it more biodiverse. And we also try to educate people how they can be a part of it, because 60% of the city of Rotterdam is in private hands and 40% is public. So we cannot, we're not the solution for everything. We have to work together.
I'm going to skip to another question. Hopefully we have just a couple of minutes to respond to it. A good question around, I don't think we talked about that. How long does it take to implement? You know, when we talk about right from groundbreaking, maybe when we look at just the construction and design portion of it, how long does it take to implement the nature-based solution? Who do we want to start with? Klaasen really quickly, and then Shilesh in one of your examples.
The rain garden was pretty quick because it's a pilot. The biggest thing is that you have to have people who put their hands together and say, well, let's go for it. And Rotterdam has a nature of doing pilots. I think the implementation of how do you say, to get it to the scale of the city, to make it work actually for the whole system, that's the hard thing, because I think I talked about the Rotterdam style. That's the handbook about designing outer space, and we have it for 13 years now, and I think it's about 1/3 of the city is within these standards. So no, it's 15 years. So it takes a lot of time, to be honest, and but we don't have a lot of time. So
right. Okay.
Lots of
very quickly, Shilesh, maybe on the school project there. How long did that take?
So we entered the school in November when it got flooded. So we had discussions with the sister in December and January. So it took us nearly 4 to 4 months for us to come to a conclusion on the design, that to understand where things are going to go, how it is going to benefit them. We did our groundbreaking on April 2022. The system was pumping sewage into it by October 2022.
Wow, fantastic.
That's quick.
Yes.
I just wanted to add one little thing. We have well, it's not a law, but we have a lot of participation. And that's a good thing. But if you want to speed up, sometimes it's good to have a pilot so you can speed it up. But in the regular way of working, we have a lot of participation, which also takes a lot of time. So it's usually when we start a project, it's about 2 years from the start until,
and that's so fundamental, right? So
the wetlands took 3 months to have a consistent result. So October we started pumping in the sewage at a progressive scale. Somewhere in January we could see consistency. January, February we could see consistency in the results that are coming. So the constructed wetland takes the constructed wetland, the anaerobic reactor for the bacteria of specificity which are adaptive to the water to grow. You need 3 to 4 months. So that time scale has to be considered when it comes to nature based. But once it's stabilized, it's just clear because the water that is coming in is consistently the same and the bacteria is kind of perform.
Excellent. I guess the whole planning cycle takes longer. The implementation is not the main time consumer. Well, there are a few questions that we didn't manage, unfortunately, to answer. I would have loved to keep the conversation going, but the session is reaching the end. What I would suggest, however, if those who send us questions, or you have some questions that you think of them afterwards, please feel free to send them over by email to our organization, and we will get in touch with Sander and Shilesh and respond to them if that works for you. So what I would like to, yes?
Yeah, well, yes.
Okay.
We could respond over the weekend. Yeah, I can.
Excellent. Thank you. So I would like at this point, on behalf of Resilient Cities Network and GHD, to thank our panelists, Shilesh, Sander. Thanks so much. This was extremely useful. That's a lot of condensed knowledge and experience. Thank you for sharing this inspirational work. And I would also like to close with a wish to see everybody in the 2024 speaker series of Cities on the Frontline. Tina, Sander, Shilesh.
Yeah. So one thing at that, Resilient City, the Krish, who's the Chief Resilient Officer, had been the fundamental role in connecting us to the school because he is the key point of contact. And he has been the facilitator for most of the efforts that we have done because he has been the interface for us with the government. So I would say we wouldn't be here without the Resilient Network being a part of what we have done. And yeah, thanks a lot for the support and thanks a lot for this opportunity as well.
Thank you too. Okay. Well, with this, we could say goodbye and wrap up.